Greetings and welcome back to Pseudo's journey through the Japanese air tactry in War Thunder, a series of subpar guides made for unskilled free-to-play players by an unskilled free-to-play player. On this slightly superior to subpar day, we shall be looking at the first bomber in rank 2 of Japan, and the plane that starts a trend which will follow the bombers through the rest of the tree, the G4M1. This bomber can be found at battle rating 2.7 in rank 2 in the 5th line of the Japanese air tactry. If you will recall from previous installments of this series that cover bombers, Japanese bombers were not meant to do massive carpet bombings like in the European theater during World War II. Instead, they were mainly strategic bombers with incredibly long range, good maneuverability, relatively light defensive firepower, and notably, a very limited bomb payload. To put it bluntly, the G4M1 is an absolute microcosm of this doctrine. The flight performance of the G4M1 is incredibly good for a full-size bomber. In typical Japanese fashion, the turn rate of it can match and surpass many heavy fighters, being best in the 350 to 400 km per hour range in the horizontal. The energy bleeds down a bit below that in any sort of protracted turn, but not to an exceptionally bad degree. Vertical maneuvers, however, will remind you that this is in fact a bomber and that it should not be doing those. In terms of getting the nose of the plane where you want it, the rudder of the G4M1 is fairly strong and can allow you to rotate the plane side to side with little issue, making it very easy to line up bomb drops. The ailerons are definitely a weak point, being almost useless unless used in tandem with the rudder. You won't be outrolling much of anything in this one, sadly. In terms of engines, they're average for Japanese planes. You won't be able to run away from much of anything, but the airframe is light enough that you'll get where you need to be quickly and before many other bombers. I found that the climb performance isn't quite as good as on some other Japanese bombers, but this is largely negated with air spawns in every game mode. Overall, the G4M1 is a relatively maneuverable plane. To put in perspective, you may be able to hold your own against a heavy fighter or an interceptor for a turn or two, but after that, they're likely to start outmaneuvering you once you bleed your initial energy, and you'll be nearly helpless. This is not helped by the dive performance of the G4M1. The wings have a very low rip speed of 540 km per hour, which feels like it almost instantly is reached in a dive. This is a bit of an issue, as it means that it takes a long time to safely return to the airfield, and that you can't dive away from enemies for extra speed if they're closing in on you. Not only that, because you have such a decent air spawn, you almost always have to dive down on enemies if you desire to dogfight them. This either puts your wings in danger of ripping or kneecaps you by forcing you to waste all of your energy and engage with the enemy at slow speeds. Because of these facts, I recommend dogfighting only as a last resort. Besides, your best gunner is in your tail anyway, so right behind you is precisely where you want your enemies to be. The durability of the G4M1 is unsurprisingly bad. You are very light and can only hold up to punishment from the lightest MGs. Anything larger than that will set you on fire, and more than likely surgically remove your wings and tail. The defensive armaments of the G4M1 are actually rather usable compared to previous bombers in the tech tree. You get 4 7.7mm Type 92 machine guns and 1 20mm Type 99 Model 1 cannon. The gunners are spread out all over the plane, with the only real blind spots being directly underneath the plane and above and to the front. The issue: most of these are 7.7mm machine guns, and subsequently do no damage, as I'm sure you are already aware. The 7.7mm have several ammo belts, with the armored targets belt being my preferred one, though as usual, none of these will cause them to do much more damage than chucking a marble at the enemy plane. The 20mm Type 99 Model 1 cannon is where things get interesting though. This gunner is positioned in the very rear of your tail and can shoot in a very large cone directly behind the plane. This is an incredibly powerful cannon for this rank, and a single high explosive shot can decimate light fighters and critically damage much heavier ones. I've gotten a ridiculous number of one-shot kills with this cannon. The issue is that, as with most gunners, it's very hard to aim. While obviously a degree of skill can be obtained, sometimes it just will not fire where you want it to fire, and it is very inaccurate after only a very short distance. You do get an air targets belt, which is full of everybody's favorite high explosive fragmentation rounds, giving you some very consistent and potent damage. This single gun is the selling point of the bomber, as the ordnance load sure isn't. Speaking of, the G4M1 can carry 12 60kg Navy Type 97 No. 6 ground bombs, 4 250kg Navy Type No. 25 Model 2 bombs, 4 250kg Navy Type 98 No. 25 bombs, 1 500kg Navy Type No. 50 Model 2 bomb, 1 Type 91 Model 2 torpedo, 1 Type 91 Model 3 torpedo, 1 800kg Navy Type 99 No. 80 AP bomb, or 1 800kg No. 80 Model 1 bomb. And now, you will likely notice how this is hardly more than some of the dive/torpedo bombers we've been covering recently. This should not be lost on you and will be a common recurrence throughout the TAC tree. Thankfully, they all have the same reward multiplier for bases, so that makes our math for the air battles loadout much easier. The 60kg bombs are, as always, very inaccurate when dropped from up high and deal very little damage. On tanks, they will need direct hits to kill, and sometimes even that might not be enough. Each does about 1/8 of a base, requiring 8 to destroy one base with a bit of help from the snail. With 12, you can take out just under a base and a half. This should typically be your go-to loadout for air battles. The 250kg bombs are quite decent for tank clearing, though less so than they were at 1.7. Overall, you still don't need direct hits to kill tanks, and open-top tanks you can collect kills on from a fairly bad drop even. You also get 4 of these bombs, which is incredibly nice as you have plenty of drops. This should be your go-to loadout for ground battles. In air battles, I've found that these bombs are quite inconsistent with base damage. It seems that if you drop them too close together on a base, they do less damage. Sometimes. It's incredibly inconsistent. Occasionally, I've needed to drop all 4 to destroy a single base. Other times, each bomb would do just under half a base, requiring only 3 drops to destroy a base. Even in the best case scenario though, they all combined do a little bit less damage to the bases than the 60kg bombs, so just bring out the 60kg bombs for air battles. As an addendum to the 250kg bombs, you'll see that there are 2 different sets which you can take. Take the number 25 Model 2 bombs every time. They are about 15 kilograms heavier and have noticeably more explosive filler. They are a pure upgrade over the other ones. The 500kg bomb is utterly useless as you can only carry one of them in your entire bomber. In your entire full-sized bomber. This is truly pathetic. It's only a little better than the 250kg bombs against tanks, but only gain 1 drop as opposed to 4, tanks its usefulness as CAS to null. The damage it can do to a base in air battles is similarly pathetic, barely doing 3/4 of a base. You should never use this bomb. The 800kg bomb is still quite good for this tier, being able to take out large groups of enemies. However, it is severely hampered by the fact that you only get 1 of them. This greatly reduces the number of tank kills you can get on any sortie, requiring you to get 4+ kills per drop to match the efficiency of the 250kg bombs. It also only does 7/8 of a base, meaning that both the 60kg and 250kg bombs much exceed it in that metric. The torpedoes are both nice, with the Model 3 being a direct upgrade to the Model 2. They're incredibly potent and can tear a ship in half. However, this requires gain within a kilometer of an enemy ship if you want them to hit before the heat death of the universe. I'll spare you the details and will let you know that this will never happen. The anti-aircraft fire is far too good, and you are far too large and light of a target to even comprehend getting that close to an enemy. The 800kg AP bomb is supposedly good against heavily armored targets like ships, having a much lower explosive while being able to penetrate thick armor. Similarly, to get accurate drops, you need to get within range of the anti-aircraft fire of enemy vessels. You'll be lucky to get a drop, and you'll be even luckier to score a hit. And if you are lucky enough to actually score a kill with this one, clip it and send it to Thundershow. If any of the people at Gaijin actually play Naval CAS, they will understand your accomplishment. So, are you finally starting to see the issue with Japanese bombers now? In War Thunder, bombers are rewarded for the size of their payload. The G4M1 only barely beats the similarly ranked dive bombers in that metric. Bombers are rewarded for being able to take heavy damage long enough to spray enemies down with defensive fire. Japanese bombers have neither durability nor too much firepower. Their bombers have incredible range, which is pointless in War Thunder, and maneuverability. However, the maneuverability is made useless as you have no forward guns, you bleed energy too quickly, and you can't use your altitude to gain an energy advantage without ripping your wings. Dogfighting would also remove the enemy from the place you want them, flying in a straight line behind your tail where your 20mm gunner can lay into them. This is my, and I think many people in the community's problem with Japanese bombers. A combination of Gaijin's implementations, the insane naval AA fire, and their own conflicting design principles make them all but useless in War Thunder. Until we get to the very highest echelon of Japanese bombers, there is simply never any reason to use them over the dive bombers and strike aircraft at their own ranks. So, how do we play the G4M1 effectively? Well, you don't. Effectively, that is. In air battles, go to your selected base with the 60kg bombs, drop them, and immediately start dropping back down towards your base. Due to the horrible wing rip speed, you will need to take it at a very shallow angle. You should never go looking for fights with enemies and only engage them if they have their sights set on you during your dive back to base. Remember, you want enemies directly behind you. I typically bait enemies by pretending I don't see them until they're about 2 kilometers out. Then I use some of that great performance I have to do the only things useful for, snap turning to get them right behind the tail of the G4M1. After that, wait till they start to catch you. From here, it's just a coin toss as to whether you get a lucky shot in before they shoot you down. If you fail that coin flip and they are too close for comfort, try to turn the plane under them and force them to overshoot so you can line up your rear gunner again. This hardly ever works against competent players. However, that's really all you can do. In ground battles, act as a medium altitude bomber. Line up a pass through the battlefield, fly through, drop 250kg bombs on stationary targets, turn around, and repeat. If enemy AA fire starts lighting up the sky around you, immediately break off the attack and turn as hard and erratically as you can away from them. Then reposition and repeat. This is a large and flimsy target, so anti-aircraft fire is a death sentence if you let them fire long enough to properly range in their shots. For mechanization, you do get the standard takeoff, landing, and combat flaps. The combat flaps are really only useful in those situations where an enemy has gotten too close for comfort and you need every bit of turn you can get. However, they rip at about 428 km per hour, so be very careful not to use them if you dive down during the turn. The gears can be deployed anywhere below about 300 km per hour. Takeoffs are rarely ever used due to having air spawns, but with the light airframe and takeoff flaps, they're fairly quick. Landings can be fairly easy, as with the landing flaps you can get very slow without stalling. The brakes are decent, though the plane can be a bit bouncy on landing, so be careful and come in nice and slow. The visuals of the G4M1 are fairly normal for Japanese bombers. It has the bloated elliptical fuselage with a nice green and white paint job as the default. No extra camos or special things besides the nifty looking rear gunner's area on the aircraft. The cockpit of the G4M1 is, as always, a trashy, unmodeled bomber cockpit. Remember, I really never play first person, so this is all a subjective view from somebody who has no idea what they're talking about. Between the large wings and engines, lots of bracing, and a relatively high console in front of you, your visibility is nothing great in any direction, even if you could stand looking at the single poly texture in there. Overall, an absolutely trash cockpit. For the finances of the G4M1, it costs 7,900 RP to research, 10,000 SL to purchase, and 3,000 SL to slot, bringing us up to a total of 13,000 SL to purchase and slot. The repair cost of a fully upgraded G4M1 is 632 SL in arcade battles and 1,053 SL in realistic battles. For modifications, we want to rush the bombs for our bomber. Get the 250kg bombs, the airframe, and the torpedo mods. Then get the 20mm belts to unlock rank 4 mods, the 800kg bomb, and the new 20mm guns. Then get the engine injection, and cover mods. Go back and get the rest of the flight performance mods and the EFS. Finally, get the completely useless 7.7mm gunner upgrades if you so desire. That's a wrap on the G4M1. Overall, it really starts the trend of Japanese bombers having very few use cases that couldn't be fulfilled better by dive bombers or other strike aircraft at the same ranks. Except for playing with the 20mm gun in the tail and getting a few extra 250kg bomb drops in ground battles if the enemy has no AA up, I really can just never really find a reason to play this aircraft. I'd be honored to see you next time, where we'll be looking at the first Key 44s in the tech tree. These are rather different from the previous Key 43s, but are equally lethal fighters in their own right, in the hands of a skilled player. Whether you're there or not, I thank you for tuning in today.